Welcome to another episode of Square Peg Round Hole. For some of you, welcome back, and for others, thanks for joining us for the very first time. I'm thrilled you're here. Your time's valuable, and so thanks for trusting me, at least for a few minutes with it. I hope I don't disappoint. I've been gone for a couple weeks, and there's a little bit of gap between the last episode and this one, as I was in Italy speaking and came back and did a little vacation, and so I'm thrilled to be sitting back behind the mic because I've got some things I want to talk to you today about. Specifically, I want to unpack what it means to embrace your baggage. Because we all have baggage. Some of us are just better at pretending we don't. And for many of us, the older we get, the heavier the baggage becomes because we fail to take inventory of the garbage we collect over the years, and it just keeps piling up. And it gets heavier and heavier. Really, because we become hoarders, just holding on to crap that we've crammed into like that proverbial carry-on we drag around with us, which just weighs us down. And not only dragging it around makes us tired, but, hiding it as well. So we don't just haul it, we hide it. We hide it from others because we're afraid of what they might think if they knew the real you instead of the person that we all pretend to be. And I know what I'm talking about on this issue because I'm not special. I've got my own secrets. I've got fewer because I keep telling them to you. But like I try to say every time, you're not alone, and that's what I want you to understand. I am a reliable narrator on this topic, and you can trust me. A few days ago, I was sent a tweet. Simple tweet, but it caught my attention, sparked my thoughts for the day. And it just said this: I try to skip generic small talk and go deep right away. Now, I'm intrigued by that idea because I'm of the opinion that ultimately small talk is pretty much a waste of time. Now, is there any value to it whatsoever? Maybe, but we seldom venture beyond small talk to have authentic conversations. And the problem with that is I really believe that people want to go beyond chit chat, but they don't get to. One person actually replied to my retweet and said, I think small talk's necessary because it weeds out who's going to suck up my energy or who's going to be safe to go deep with. I understand what they're saying, maybe, but at the same time, I find that sentiment probably a bit selfish because down deep, each of us is really just seeking connection. And I'm talking about connections where we feel noticed, we feel valued, listened to, ultimately we feel loved. And those kinds of connections are not cultivated with, hey, sure nice weather we're having today. How you doing? Fine. How are you doing? Fine. No, that doesn't cut it. And that might be one of the reasons our culture is deprived of authenticity because we're just protecting ourselves or protecting our turf or ultimately anymore today, we're just proving our point. In order for us to move from shallow relationships and experience treasure, really, that's only found in deep water, is to take some risk. And that's going to require a level of transparency and vulnerability that most people won't even consider because of their past experiences. And that's precisely a large sum of the stuff that's packed in that bag we're dragging around. Now, the idea of embracing your baggage, to be honest, just to be raw, is just better said as owning your shit. Admit it. Own it. Acknowledge it. Confess it. Just confess the crap you carry with you because you'll never be able to share it unless you do. You can't share something with others that you don't own in the first place. And that's really the paradox, I guess, of the whole issue. Ownership is the key. I'm simply talking about unpacking wounds, pain, problems, experiences that were difficult. You have to first embrace them yourself. That's ownership. You can't just like stuffing the past, the pain, the problems. You can't just compartmentalizing them and pushing them down deeper and deeper, hoping they'll disappear, hoping they'll dissipate. You got to take it out of the bag. You've got to look it in the face. You've got to embrace it. You got to decide what you're going to do with it before you can move forward. My friend Monty, who was on a few episodes ago, said that most of this stuff in your bags you probably packed in the first place. And for me, at least, I know that's true. For others, you are of the opinion that a lot of your baggage was brought upon by others. Some of it was, but you don't have to live in that as a victim. You don't have to continue to own that. And I've said for years that you can't fix what you won't admit. Now, I didn't say it. I stole it from Dr. Phil McGraw, but I'm going to take it as my own pretty soon. You've got to embrace the baggage, and then you have to be willing to share it. The sharing is just as important. Matter of fact, that's where most of the healing comes from. It's a huge step to learning as well, to live with authenticity in an artificial world, which is our goal. Now, baggage isn't anything to be embarrassed about because everyone has baggage. It's not just you. And the more willing you are to reveal your baggage, the deeper your connections with people become. If you trust me with your junk, then I can probably trust you with my junk too. But trust is risky because we've been all burnt or betrayed in the past, right? No, of course, right. But as I said already, aren't we all just looking for a connection? Don't we all want deeper and more meaningful relationships with people? Of course we do. Now, if you answered in your head, no, I don't need anybody. And I know people like that. Well, first of all, I'm sorry. My suspicion is, I could be wrong, but my suspicion is you've been hurt, ignored, or betrayed too many times already. And like I said, I'm sorry. But you're wrong. You do need relationship. You were designed for relationship. We are better in relationship. Maybe you just need a healthier relationship. Maybe I can help you with that. When you make yourself vulnerable, you know what happens? You become more approachable. You actually become more trustworthy because people can see themselves in you. And regardless of your position in life or your situation, it doesn't matter. People will resonate with you and feel valuable in their own circumstances because you are, in fact, just like them. And then they don't feel alone. Now, I want to encourage you because some of you have already thought, like, no way, not me, not going to do it. You're afraid your baggage will be used against you. Okay, fair assessment. It is. Because in some cases, it might be. There is always a chance that someone can leverage your life as a weapon against you. When I wrote the book Alone Sucks, my wife had that same exact feeling. She said, people are going to crucify you because if you put this out there in print, man, you're going to get hammered. And I knew why she was afraid because some people had already done that in the past. I actually talk about that in the book. But what we found out actually is that thousands upon thousands of people since then have saw themselves in my story. And they also saw other people who needed to read my story as well. Because people have been waiting for someone they can relate to, just like your baggage has been waiting for you to embrace it. Because honestly, your baggage is beautiful. It might not feel beautiful to you at first. It might not look beautiful. I mean, when it comes down the little, escalator turnstile or whatever thing there in the airport, I know what my baggage is. It's the one that is beat up and scarred and it's got stickers on it and missing half a wheel. But all of that is part of the beauty. It tells a story. It's the experience of where I've been, what I've gone through. I'm not kidding here. Baggage can be beautiful. Can it be painful? Sure, it can be painful too. But simultaneously, it can be the building blocks to a much better future. Baggage is your friend. Let's just call it that. When embraced, baggage, it builds character. And so maybe it's time to finally look at smack dab in the face, claim it, own it, and proudly share it with others. Stand up and go, that's mine. And 99% of them will thank you for it. Now, you can embrace your baggage and expose yourself to others without airing all your dirty laundry. I mean, there are times you have to have a filter. Everyone doesn't need to know everything in every detail. I mean, I shared about 20% of a chunk of my story in Alone Sucks, the big rocks or the realness. There's more drama and detail I could have chosen to share, but I keep that private because there are some things that are sacred, some experiences that are just for you. But when it comes to embracing and sharing baggage, I'm talking specifically about those experiences that you have that have broken you, experiences that have shaped you, transformed you into the person you are today. Embracing your baggage means owning it, but it also means you've got to let it out. If you don't release baggage, it becomes a poison, and that poison becomes toxic to your life. I mean, that's why we love spending time with friends, isn't it? I've got a trip coming up in about 3 weeks, and with a group of friends, I fly to sea every year. It's a commitment. It's a safe space and place. It's a sacred place where I don't have to pretend, and I cherish it because I have a few of those relationships outside of my wife, my sons, my daughter-in-law, and where it's okay to expose the difficult times. It might be from the past, it might be recently, but it feels right. And we have those relationships because at one point, somebody in the group broke the ice and got completely vulnerable with the other one and set the stage for that kind of health. Now, I try to do the same thing on this podcast with you. It's actually why I started it, because I knew there were people in this audience who need to hear that they aren't the only ones carrying around baggage that's become like burdensome. Could it come back to bite me? Probably. Do I care? No. No, not at all. I prefer to put others first. And naive? Yeah, we'll find out. But that's why I like to have deep conversations over small talk and chit chat. Because I might only have a few minutes with you on this podcast. I might only have a few minutes with the person standing in front of me. And I just do not want to miss the opportunity for them to feel noticed. That's why for me, small talk is really artificial flavoring and filler. And it's a barrier to building healthy lives. It's a barrier to healthy ingredients that people need for emotional nourishment. Like I said, embracing your baggage, owning your shit, whatever you want to say, it's a good step forward on the path to authenticity. It's not the whole path. It's just a good solid first step or one step. Now, when I use the word authenticity, maybe I should talk more about authenticity just for a second. Because, I mean, that's the core of everything we say. I mean living with the freedom to just be. Just be. I mean, can you imagine what it would feel like if you felt free to be yourself all the time? Can you imagine a world where no one felt forced to wear a mask? Where sharing victories, I guess, came as easy as sharing vulnerabilities with people. Wouldn't that be great? Imagine a planet where people didn't hide what was going on inside their head or inside their heart. It sounds good to me. Does it sound good to you? It sounds good to me. It can happen. I believe, or I'm wasting my time and I'm a fool, but I can believe that it can happen if a few people take the risk to go first. Someone's got to go first. And here's where that would begin to happen in your life if you would be first. You would feel lighter. You just feel lighter. Not only would you feel lighter because you're not weighed down by your past, but you'd be more fulfilled. You'd feel more connected. You would feel more seen. And the experience of expressing yourself freely would not only benefit you as a person, but it would benefit the world as well. I'm convinced. I'm convinced that you could be, you would be, you should be contagious in a good way. Seriously, imagine if everyone was free to be vulnerable. Not only would we feel good as individuals, but everyone around us would cultivate deeper relationships, deeper understanding of each other. I mean, after all, isn't the conflict which our world is full of today, doesn't it just come from not understanding the person next to us? So how do you begin? Let's break it down. Well, I'm just going to make it simple. I just say today, just why don't you attempt to start avoiding small talk? Now, that might be huge for you, but it's really not. Avoiding small talk is small. Small talk's not warm-up talk. It's not like, hey, we finally warmed up. Let's get into the deep stuff. Because most of the time, the conversation is over. You've never walked away from chit-chat and said, oh, that was such a good conversation. So when someone asks you next time, how are you? Well, tell them how you are. No more one-word answers. Nope, fine. No, tell them how you are. Dive in deep. And if that's too much for them to handle, well, maybe they're not the person or the place you want to invest your time. That's okay. But when you're willing to get real and embrace your baggage, you're going to discover that it becomes less scary than you imagine. It really is. You'll also discover that people have the same baggage as you. It might come in different shapes and colors and sizes and the whole thing with names on it, but it's baggage nonetheless. We all have baggage. That's what I said when I began. And when you decide to break free from the status quo, to go beneath the surface, you instantly cut through the insecurities that accompany the baggage you've been dragging around. So maybe it's just time to realize that on the inside, we're all the same. We're all the same. Fundamentally flawed. Ultimately human. That's the bottom line. Now, I've said this on previous episodes. I realize now, today more than ever, life's pretty stinking short. Every day, today, this day is a gift. This time with you on this podcast, this is a gift for me. So while I'm breathing, I want to influence as many people as humanly possible. And I want the message that I teach to be infectious, which entails me letting down my guard and letting you see my imperfections. And I'm fine with that. For some, that sounds really odd. For others, it sounds really hard. It can be at first, but it gets easier and then easier and easier until you become a square peg in a round hole, which I love being a square peg in a round hole. I love the feeling that I do not need to fit into the mold that others have created for me anymore. It's freedom. It's authenticity. It's what I want for you. When you stand out or stand up or stand apart from the crowd, you will become more influential in others people's lives than you ever imagined and more secure in your own. And that's what I want for you. So please consider today's podcast as just a challenge. Embrace your baggage. Own your humanity with humility. And then own your authenticity in this artificial world. Make it a better place for you. Make it a better place for others. I hope you enjoyed the episode. So before you close out of the podcast app you're using, please take a minute, leave a 5-star review. That'd be really helpful. I'd appreciate it. And I'll catch you again soon.